Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Matt Latter, and today I want to show you Wonderdraft. So, what is Wonderdraft? Wonderdraft is a map-making tool primarily intended for overland and city-style maps that is one-time purchase, $30 US. You download it, you run it on your own computer. There's no subscription fee, there's no enforced online functionality. You just download it, you run it, you have it. Very big plus in my opinion. So, when you open the tool up, you're greeted by this wonderful screen and the Mega Sploot logo, which is super cute. And, well, we're gonna make a map together and I'm gonna show you the functionalities of Wonderdraft while we do. So, let's get started. We're gonna create a new map, and this is already a bit where the whole Wonderdraft thing begins to shine, because some tools try to restrict you to very small sizes, and as you can see here, yeah, 8,192 pixels in each dimension, rather large. So let's go ahead and stick to a 3000 by 2000 map for now. There's various templates that allow you to just customize the size and stuff like that for easy references, and there are themes. When you run it first, you'll only have the themes up until Worn. The Avoro ones are essentially just additional styles. It's a add-on I downloaded, costs no money, free to have. Look around and you'll find it. And we're just gonna start with the feudal theme. Under assets, you can activate and deactivate additional assets. And as you can see, I, well, have a lot of stuff already. So I guess that's one of the big pluses. Free stuff, free extra tokens. The entire community is really great. If you want to see what you can do with this tool besides what I'm showing you here, head over to Reddit's Wonderdraft subreddit, r/Wonderdraft, and just look at it. It's amazing. But for now, let's just keep going. So, we're gonna OK and create our map. It'll load all the textures, all the icons, everything up. Gonna take a minute. And then we're gonna start. So, we're gonna make a comparatively smallish overland map, and when I zoom out, well, that's our water. As you can see, there's this patterning here that is specifically the feudal texture for water. One of the really cool things right out of the gate is if I'm like, oh yeah, I don't like that, I can just change it. Just completely ad hoc, click the drop down, change what you want. You can do that at any time. Any time. It really makes this great. So let's take a step back and start from the top. On the left, you have your toolbars. On the right, you have the sub-options for the selected tools. You have the menu bar as usual, and all manner of things. So let's not get too bogged down. We want to start simple. So since everything is land, we're gonna start water. We want to make land. Everything is water. We want to start with the land. Under the land option, there's several different sub-options you can choose. You can go for Landmass wizard if you want a specific preset pattern. Say we want a continental map. Roughness, detail, water level, play around with them. They are mostly self-explanatory, and then just hit generate, and there you go. We have a small continent. And we can just keep going if that's not quite our jam, and just keep going. Maybe continent isn't quite what you're looking for. Let's swap to another one. There's options. So yeah, let's take ourselves a continent as a baseline to work from. The toolset for land has some other sub things. First of all, a landmass brush, which is just literally you paint in a normal brush sized landmass, and you can increase and decrease with a scroll wheel or with a slider, up to your will. You have the same in reverse, the landmass eraser. And as you may note, of course, these things don't look exactly like coastlines, because way too smooth. That is where the raise and lower landmass comes into play. They are kind of one of the ingenious tools they're using in this program to make mapping easier. So if we raise, it will automatically create kind of fractalized landmasses, coastlines, depending on your brush size and on your settings. You want it less rough? You can do that. You want it rougher? You can do that as well. A really different look depending on what you really want to go with. So let's just make this bit of a bigger place here. There we go. Nice isle. And now let's do the reverse and create a little bay here. Up the roughness a little bit. And there we go. Nice and easy. We're eating away at the landmass. And then just scroll down, wiggle out the last bits. And there we go. We have a very simple landmass. And again, these tools just help you in how they operate, you know, giving you that authentic look and feel already. Now, right now, I'm personally thinking the water is way too dark like this, so I want to change the look. I can always just click on the map effects and swap the water texture around again. In this case, I would like to actually swap over to water specifically. There's specific water options we want to reach right now. And in the water options, there's a water appearance. And here we can completely change how it looks. Quite easily with the sliders. How do you want things to look? I want rather bright water, something like that. That looks a lot friendlier already. And yeah, I'll leave the stain out for now. You can see in the background there's these kind of interruptions here and there, and that's what stain does basically. Just helps you with making the waters look a bit more, well, a bit less unified. We go back to our land, and here we're going to continue. The next thing you have is the ground brush color. The ground brush color just lets you paint, well, the ground in different colors quite easily. We're going to get to that later. That's, to me at least, a step I want to do after I've done a lot of the other work. From here on, the only thing that's left is the landmass polygon lasso. You can just click several times, right-click to finish the selection, and then fill it with landmass. Or at the same time, you can also copy, paste, cut, erase. We want it like that right now. So what do we want kind of for a map style? I'm gonna go ahead and make this actually a bit of a larger unified landmass. So I'm gonna go ahead and connect these up. And then, yeah, like that. I'm gonna make this here into a bit of an actual continental-sized mass. So, drawing the coastlines, just so you have them ready, and then I typically go ahead and just use the brush tool, get to a rather big size, and just paint in the landmass behind. It's a lot faster, of course, than just the raised landmass. If you don't want to swap tools and it's only a tiny bit, you can of course use it. But personally, if you have anything of any size that's a bit bigger, use that one. So, now let's go ahead and add some more. I want this here to be a bit chunkier. It looks a bit too frail for my taste right now. So let's go ahead, paint that down here. And here again, the coastline, nice up. Small island, add another one down here as well. Bit of an elongated one. There we go. And now once again, we go ahead, we paint close the internal land masses. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and start working on the coastline look. Because right now I find the coastline look way too harsh, way too hard, and it's not quite to my taste. So what we can do is we go again to, well, just the effects. You can typically reach them from any kind of landmass subtool. Just click on the stars here. And yeah, let's see what we can do. So we have, of course, the water texture and ground texture we can always change. And we have a coastal FX distance. You can see quite easily what it does. We have a landmass outline blend. This, for example, helps already make the transition much, much less, you know, radical and hard, letting it look a bit more, well, nice. The vignette style, basically just put some darker colors around the outer edges. It focuses the eye inwards. If you have water surrounding everything, that can be a viable thing to help you differentiate stuff a little bit. So now we have the coastline color, and the landmass outline color. If we click on them, we can just determine how do we want stuff to look. The coastlines, for example, I may want to have a bit brighter and less alpha. The alpha just means how visible is it, quite easily like that. And let's try to find something that fits the style. Not very visible, just giving a light blue tinge around everything. This is again a thing you can really work a lot on. How do you want it to look? And there's also the coastline style, which very much helps you differentiate that once again. Like, let me up the alpha a little bit, quite a lot, and you can see it's doing different things depending on what you select. It's a lot of playing around, finding what suits you, and just, yeah, play around. The hatch colors, hatch patterns, and dash patterns, for example, are always rather nice when you have old style maps that you want to look a certain way. Again, largely a matter of taste, how you want to apply it, how you want to do with it. There's just a lot of options out there. So let's go ahead and reduce alpha here again. And then go back to... which one do we want? Yeah, this one actually looks rather nice. Gives a bit more of an irregular coastline look, but works for what we're doing. Okay, so we have now the coastlines set up how we want them to. And yeah, this is looking good so far. A good baseline to work from. So let's actually work with it. Besides the land tools, you have paths, symbols, labels, overlay, and of course the water tools. The water tools, just to show them off real quick so you know what they are quite simply the water appearance we already had. You have the river tool that allows you to create rivers depending on, well, where you click and what options you choose. If we up the meander distance and the roughness and the width, we have massively wide-ranging rivers. And at the same time, if we reduce stuff a fair bit, they become a lot more straightforward and narrow. Don't get fooled by the somewhat pixelated graphic here. If you actually finish up, you can see it'll automatically translate it over into a style that suits actually the map, depending on what you chose. You, of course, have lakes. You just click them, place them, and if you want a different style, can I believe it? I forgot. There we go. Sorry. Shift and scrolling just scrolls through a variety of shapes. And like with the river before, you can just click it and it'll translate it over into the style of your map. So just place multiple ones for a bit of a more complicated river look, sea look. And there we go. We have a rather sizable inland sea. And let's add another one right about here, just for good measure. You, of course, have a freshwater brush. The same thing with normal landmass and water brushes. You have the erasing tool if you want to erase freshwater. Note, it doesn't do anything about sea, about the ocean, only freshwater. Then you can color your water. If you want a different look, say somewhat much deeper into the waters. Let's scroll all the way up for the brush size, brush opacity, very much down below, and then you can just paint in the darker or color changed water in general. And that by itself will already enhance the look of the map if you take your time, do it a bit more carefully than I'm doing here just to showcase things. And yeah, just the look can be rather nice. The same, of course, you can do in reverse if you want brighter waters. And yeah, just custom color, you know. Choose something you like, choose something that fits, and paint it in. And that's pretty much how these tools work. There's one more, the windrows. And that is a rather nice tool as well, especially if you like that kind of detail on your map. It does add a windrows, as suspected by the name, I guess. You can always change all the things, the color, the directions, the line width, the inner radius. If you, for example, want something to place in the middle, you know, or just an empty circle in the middle. The outer radius, of course, same thing. You can set it to fade out, and you can see it begins to fade out. There's a lot of small options here and there, as you will encounter a lot in this tool. It's really great in what it does. So for now, let's stay away from all of this. Stay away from the paths that are just, once again, to showcase path lines. Exactly as it says on the tin. Because my personal progress is I set up the landmass, and then I start setting up the icons. Primarily for me, the mountains. Once I have the mountains, I go to the trees, and then I start bringing in some color, some of the icons I want, and go from there. So right now, we're gonna start with the mountains. You have a lot of different choices, as is, well, usual in this program. I have my preferred choice, the penciled mountains large. You may notice they are white right now, while some of them are colored. There's a reason for that. I'm quickly showing it off. If I place any icon, and then go over to the land tools and the color brush, I can brush in color, and the icon will automatically pick up the color below. There's an additional clue to that, namely on the filter, you can just say, hey, I want only the ground to be painted. So if I go ahead and brush in brown here now, the mountain will not change. At the same time, if I say specifically the mountains, it will change. That can help you quite a lot with just in general how you design the maps. You know, if you just want forests to have a stark different look, that's easy to do. So, we go to the symbols, we quickly delete that mountain here by selecting it with the select tool, and then, once again, back here. I'm gonna go ahead, reduce the size to about 50 to 60% somewhere, depending on the map scale, you may want to differ that, and then a placement rate and a placement density. The placement rate is just literally how fast does it want to place them. There's a bit of a difference, a bit harder to notice, but you can see it. And the placement density, likewise, is just how dense do we want to place things. Very or not at all. These options are great. They help you so much in defining the detail. Look, you know, you may want a mountain range that's somewhat loose and wide apart, easily done. You may wish a mountain range that's much more busy, much more tight and close together. Can do that as well. So, for our purposes, we're gonna up the placement density to 1.25, reduce the size a little bit more, and then let's just go ahead and draw in a ridge line here. Just like that. Couple of offshoot mountains, add in a couple more to thicken the entire line, and there we go. We have a small mountain line. We're gonna go ahead and add a few more across the various places in this map. So I want one that just goes down all the way here. Thicken up a little bit, make an offshoot, that's round about here. There we go. And yeah, that already looks pretty decent. We're gonna go ahead and make one that's just in this vague area circling along the northern side. So let's go ahead, up the placement density, the placement rate a little bit, and then just get going. There we go. We have a nice northern mountain range, like many maps do in the north or the south. It's an easy delineation of where the map should end. There's a ton of in-game rationalizations for that. Right now I just want to have a nice look near the north. So, there we go. We now have a nice set of mountains, and it is literally that easy. You've seen it, it's not that hard. And now I want to go ahead and smooth them out. What I like to do is add very, very simple hills. There we go, the rolling hills. And I just reduce the size a bit more, and then just paint them around and between the mountains, and to me personally it gives them a bit of a more authentic look and feel, because mountains don't just start and climb into the sky, in most cases at least. There's nearly always some hillsides around, some foothills, and yeah, that's just what I'm trying to get at here. And of course you can always let them ride out their own small hill ridges, like I'm doing over here right now. And yeah, you can just see the difference. If you look at this over here, I personally find it looks a lot more believable, a lot more realistic than right now this here. There's of course different styles, like some styles don't need the hills or don't even want them. That is fine. Different styles for different maps. You gotta find your own one. I found a style that personally suits me very well, and that's the one I'm of course showing you. But always feel free, encouraged even, to try and seek your own style, you know? Create something that you find looks nice. Because after all, it is your map. It should look pleasant to you, and if you're using it for role-playing games, of course, your players, you know, it should just be an eye-catcher, be a game aid. And it's worth, of course, to a little degree to stress about that stuff, but don't get ever too up in arms about it. Maps are always, like all art, a bit of a taste thing, you know? Some people like certain styles, some people hate certain styles. Don't go crazy about it. Just do what you like, do what looks good, and run with that. So, we're gonna finish up those hills here. Nice. Now let's do it a bit quicker around here. Again, I'm not doing a full detail map. My full detailed maps typically take somewhere between 15 to 40 hours, depending on how much time I put in, how much effort I put in, how many different icons I use, the detail grade I'm going for, if I'm actually gonna name stuff or if I'm just gonna write it out and just leave a lot of stuff unnamed. And I'm pretty sure most of you don't want to sit around here for 40 hours watching me make a map. There's probably some of you. Chances of that happening, though, are admittedly fairly low. I have a life. And lots of things to do. I may stream some more map making in the future, but most of that will likely be for dungeons more so than actual maps. But let's stop me rambling right here. I have finished the mountainsides. There we go. I personally find that look already pretty nice and decent. It's coming alive, it's beginning to pop. So, the next thing, of course, is, well, we want forests. Again, there's a lot of forest symbols. It works the same way with mountains. Some of those are pre-colored. They don't pick up any color from the ground. And some of them are white, which means, of course, they pick up the color you designate. Personally, I like to go fairly small on the trees. And just for comparison's sake, this here is 100% zoom. So a single tree like that is not too small, not too big. It's gonna work. So, let's say we are in a somewhat lush terrain. There's gonna be lots of forests, and we wanna make them look nice. So one thing I would like to say immediately, not quite mistake, but a thing I often see happen by beginning mappers is they tend to just basically place the trees nearly mathematically equidistant to one another. You know, all the same distance from one another. That tends to look unnatural to the human eye. So what you should do is just click and drag the mouse, click here and there, leave some space open, even in forests, there's clearings here and there, of course. And then we're just gonna go ahead and paint in a forest here. And right now, for my taste, it's not placing enough trees. So let's up the rate. The density will remain similar. There we go, a bit more. And right now it still looks a bit dead. Of course, that's because the color is lacking. But we're gonna finish up this peninsula and then we're gonna start with color to showcase how it looks. Let's up the density some more and the rate. There we go. Now it's going a bit faster already. And yeah, as mentioned, the same thing applies, you know, keep them irregular. You want to cluster them up in some spaces, leave more open areas in others, just make it look a bit more natural. And here we go, we have this small peninsula forested now. Actually go ahead and add some more in the north. What you can also do, what I like to do, if you have the time, if the inclination, if it fits, most of all, you're gonna select a couple different trees. I personally like these cypress trees here. They're hard to spot, but at the same time they break up the monotony of the trees a lot. We go, just all throughout. A couple here, a couple there. And if you look at it with fresh eyes, you can see it immediately looks a bit more alive. It's hard to spot the individual trees, but it just looks a bit more alive. Of course, we can keep going. We can add different trees. A couple of those pine-like ones. Just like that, here and there. Not too many, just to break up the visual flow a bit. Like that, yes. Nice, nice, nice. And yeah, just keep going, different trees, different styles, add, experiment, find out what works for your map. Of course, a map that's set in a more Asian theme might profit from a different style of trees as a baseline. Something that's more an African kind of style likewise benefits from different looks. And just mix and match, see what works, and in the end, if there's some trees in there that don't quite look perfect, no need to stress out. A lot about the magic of maps comes from, well, quite honestly, the visual noise. You know, the individual trees, they just melt away. They're not really seen anymore. You much more see the greater whole, of course. Okay, so, as I'm starting rambling again, we have set up the trees for this area here. Now, of course, we can start adding other icons if we want to. Let's add a few of them. There's a whole bunch of icons that are delivered along with Wonderdraft. In my case, I added a lot of additional ones for a variety of purposes, as you can see. Lots of stuff. So, I want to find a specific type of icon. That's the problem with having too many icons. Ah, there we go. There. Let's go ahead and place a few towns. So, let's make one here. Let's add one here along the coast. Another one here. This one can look rather nice. And yeah, just like that, add a couple things to the map, make it come alive, make it nice to look at. That is your job as map maker, making the map come alive, making it look alive and breathing and just awesome. And here we go, we have a whole small set of buildings now already, and with that, let's actually go to the land again. We now want to paint in color into the whole area. So we're gonna, in the filters, deselect all. We're gonna only want the ground for now. And then for now, let's select this light greenish brown. Brush size maximum, brush opacity maximum, get going. Okay, this is looking rather dull and a bit too brown for my taste. Let's try this green. Yeah, that looks much more natural, much more fun. So, paint everything in, and then let's go ahead, add a new color, and we're gonna go for a bit of a brighter green. Something along those lines, yes. Brush opacity down, brush size down. I'm gonna take the cloudy brush to bring a bit more structure into it, and then we're just gonna paint in the different color. Yes, that's beginning to look nice already. Let's make another color. This one a bit more of a yellowish tone in the green. Something along those lines. Yeah, that's lush coastlines, very bright and happy and fertile looking land. Good stuff. Okay, so now we want the mountains. The mountains can be a bit of a darker brown, so select the dark brown, make sure that only mountains are selected, and then just paint over them. This may, in fact, for my taste, be a bit too dark already. Let's actually up the opacity, take a different color. It's always hard finding the right look for such things. Let's actually go ahead and see if we can create our own color that suits us. How about something like that? Also a bit too strong of a color. but let's mix, because you can mix, of course. We take the green, we set down the brush opacity and then just gently paint it in, and it begins mixing the colors, as you can maybe see a bit. And that already helps come close to a color we like. Say, this one actually looks not too shabby, so let's run with it. We're gonna swap over to trees, and we're gonna create a new green tone again. This one, fairly saturated, fairly dark green. Something like that, maybe. It's probably way too dark, but hey, we're gonna start somewhere. Again, don't worry if you're having trouble with the colors. Colors in particular are one of the harder things to do with. And yeah, that looks way too dark of a green. Let's color in everything first and see. It doesn't look too shabby, but a bit slightly too harsh. So let's once again mix and match the colors. We're gonna take our brighter green, brush opacity low, and then just bit by bit paint over it. And yeah, we're approaching color that's much more nice to look at. Some brighter green even. And then just paint some parts, not all of them. A bit more of the brown tone actually up here. And that way you begin to actually get a varying divergence. Let's take a very shrill green and just a couple ticks here and there. They're very small, very targeted areas. And, well, would you look at that? It already looks rather nice. Now, of course, we want pathways between the various towns we just have. And, well, we're lacking a bit of a path to this one over here. This one over here we can reach by a coastline. And, of course, to the big city over here, we have no really easy connection. So, let's go to symbols. Take the symbol move tool. And we're gonna zoom in a little bit and just select, hover over, and delete a few of those trees. You can also individually move them even. Rather nice. And let's just move them a bit away from the coastline. There we go. Same thing we're gonna do here. We're just gonna create a bit of a passage through. There we go. This is beginning to look rather nice. Yes. Nice forest route we can create here. So, we go to our paths. We have two main tools. I'm personally not using a territory tool. I'm not quite sure how it works, I must admit. It's a lack of knowledge I have to remedy sometime soon. But for now, let's go with the path tool. And we have different styles of path. For right now, let's actually go ahead and take these hashed ones here. Make a width of 3, a roughness of 0.33 works as well. The color, let's see if we can get something a bit slightly darker. There we go. And then just click and drag. And depending on the roughness, there will be a bit of a irregularity here and there. And in that fashion, we are creating our very first trade route between cities. And with a right click, we end the path. At 100% zoom, it can still be seen. It's a bit low detail, but that is fine. It just has to look a certain style. So let's add in here another start and make a road over here. And not just over here, let's actually let it pass by. And same here, we're just passing it by, and then we're moving along the coast. A bit away from the coast here, back to the coast. Just find what suits you, move in and out as it develops. Just let yourself be inspired how your map is supposed to look. You know, if there is like there's this whole aspect of storytelling by level design. That's a thing in games. You know, you're running around somewhere, you see a lot of corpses, for example, in an area, you know something bad happened here. You run through a city, you see all the windows are shattered. By implication from just general movies and games, how things work, you know something shattered all the glass in some way, probably a high-pitched scream or something. There's lots of different things you can storytell just by placing things properly. The same applies to maps. Like, if all of a sudden the roads just skeet away from the forests, right, hugging the coastline as much as possible, then there can be the implication of something's in the forest, you know, predators, beasts, monsters. There's something bad in there that may come out. At the same time, the reverse is true. If everything is much closer to the forest than to the coastline, maybe there's just, you know, dangerous coastlines, regular waves breaking towards the land, unsuitable for trade, you know, stuff like that. There's just environmental storytelling you can do with such easy measures. But yeah, we now have our roads. We can, of course, add something else as well. Let's take the dots. Let's take a bright blue. And then we're gonna add in shipping coasts. So, just like that. Where would the ships go? Of course, they try to stick somewhat close to the land in some ways. And there we go. Let's say there's more stuff down there. The ships would go south, and here they would pass through and around towards the open ocean. Maybe there's something nearby up there. At the same time, there's probably a kind of city here, and probably another one here. And that is, if you just look at it like that here, a nice and finished little piece of map. Of course, we need still labels. And once again, Wonderdraft provides. So, just as easy, we have a label tool, we have a move label tool, and we have a box tool. A box tool is usable for legends and the like. Stuff like that. Use the scale, something like that. Let's make it 45. There we go. And just move it where it suits you. In this case, let's put it here, and then we can create our labels. There's, of course, different presets. There's even an internal name generator that you can use. For example, let's go with bodies of water, the water preset, and click up here. And then just, well, generate a name. These are the white swells. Oops, misclicked. There we go. When you click on something, on a label, it'll show the rotation button and the move button. That's how you do that. If you want to delete it, while it's selected, click the delete button. In this case, though, I don't quite like that look. I like to create my own ones. So make it white, a fair bit more visible, no outline necessary, and then there's different fonts you can choose from. Choose what you like. Once again, it's, well, there's no unified theory of this font works for all maps. That's just not how it works. And there we go. Let's actually go ahead and reduce the alpha. And here we go. We have the white swells. Let's add another one. Let's add the wonderful Bay of Fish. Just because I can. And this one we want to curve around a little bit as well, but not quite as much. There we go. Let's move the box actually a little bit. And there we go. We have the Bay of Fish, we have the white swells. We can add more stuff to that. Same thing, of course, applies with everything. Just add whatever you feel like. Let's add city names. We're gonna make them not too large, but in this case, of course, we want them very readable. And we want to add an outline. Make it a black outline that's fully visible, easy to read. So, we have a wonderful city or hamlet of LA. And great thing is as well, you have a certain style of label. You want to repeatedly use it, but say after placing one town, I was like, oh yeah, no, I need a different label here. Bay of Blorb. Okay, but yeah, now I already actually accidentally showed it off. I want another city label. So you just click on a city label, it'll automatically take over all the same presets. You can also always save your own presets. City WD for Wonderdraft. There you go, you have it saved. You can always just click on something, make this here my water thing, and I can just be like, how does this actually look in the city? Oh yeah, no, way too small. There we go. And yeah, easy as pie. Let's call this North Pier. Small city of Welda. City of Ardena. Here we go. Let's call this Woodcroft. A very classic British-like naming scheme. And Whitefellas. There we go. Now, let's go ahead and add some greenery to it. Let's call this the East Copse. Not quite a sensible name, probably, but hey. So, we want to once again give this a bit of a greenish look. And this time we want a white outline, but yeah, of course, white and green don't work well together. Who would have guessed? Let's keep this white with a black outline, but give it a different font. And now it's, well, what font can you use for that? There's different styles once again. Choose one that works for you. Don't feel forced into using something just because a lot of people use it. Make your own way. So, there we go. And now let's go ahead and make this a little bit less visible. This as well. And let's see, how does that look? At 100%, still vaguely readable. Should work. Again, this is just for decoration's sake. When you make a map, you should always kind of be aware at the onset of kind of what map you want. Maybe some people want informative maps, you know, like the one I showed in the intro video, with thousands of labels quite literally all over the map. Sometimes you just want a map that has a certain look to it. Not very informative, but very nice looking. And that is upon you to decide as the map maker. Let's call this simply South Greens. Again, I'm not putting in the greatest effort here, but it's just to showcase things. And of course, I can also give a mountain range a name, but I think I've showed this plenty now. There's a few more things that Wonderdraft can do that I want to show off. One of them is, of course, overlays. You can trace stuff. Never used it, but from what I can tell, you can just put in images, icons and the like, have it traced and see if it works. You have a grid tool, of course, depending on what kind of grid you want. And then you have the frame tool. The frame tool just lets you, well, enable a frame and give it a certain look. Rather nice for just some specific looks you may want to go for. Generally, I don't use them overly much. If I use frames, I mostly just add them on my own in Photoshop. But for those who don't have Photoshop or don't know how to use it, this is a rather easy tool. Of course, every good map also needs kind of like a, well, what's it called? A scale. Thanks. My brain sometimes. So, I just create a scale. Here it is. And you can completely customize that. Want more segments? Sure, go for it. Want very few? You can do that as well. Line widths. The outline. Simple as that. You can even give separate colors, including an outline color. Let's make this black again. And can I set it to 0? No, 2 is the minimum. Okay, and you can of course also set a segment distance. As you note, it doesn't change the distance in the map, because of course you want maybe to define your own distances. So let's say one of those is 20 miles. So that is plenty of distance for our little map here. You can always display the numbers differently. Not at all. Only at the ends, or only every other. You can change the font size, of course, and the outline width of your font and the font color. It is that easy, it is that nice, and it lets you do these things easily and quickly on your own computer, no web access needed. It's just that amazing. You of course also have a measuring tool that you can use, well, for certain measurements then. you can use map scale units, and it'll refer back to how you define the miles, of course. Rather helpful if you want to measure how far is it from one place to another. Does that, seem sensible? Does it work for what I want? Rather nice stuff like that. So that is in a very short demonstration how we made this wonderful peninsula here. A bit of a showcase of Wonderdraft. As you can see, there's lots of good stuff in there. We have only scratched the surface of what's possible. Again, there's so much more stuff. Add rivers, of course, let's give it a not too wide river here. Let's actually make it a bit rougher. And that river just flows past Ordina into the water here. Looks nice. There's other rivers that flow into this one. So they need maybe a couple bridges where you can put symbols there if you wanted to. A bit too on the low scale level probably for that, but you could do it. Nothing's preventing you. Add a windrows around. Make it black actually. Looks better, yeah. Reduce the alpha some more. And put it around white fellas. And yeah, there we go. Looks nice. And then there's a few more options you can do with. I mean, firstly, of course, in the symbols, there's so much more stuff available. Mountains, there's top-down castle structures. These are all, by the way, from available resources. Containers, if you want to do modern style, city block presets, different scrolls where you can, for example, put country names into. Yeah, of course, the city buildings itself. There is a lot of stuff. A lot of it is free. The stuff that isn't free doesn't typically cost all too much. I think the wonderful stuff from 2-Minute Tabletop, all of these icons here that have this nice city look, they cost $1 or pay what you want. I think I paid 5 to 10 per set, just because it's worth it to me. I do a lot of maps, of course. And yeah, I want to show you, once again, you have the map finished, you're not quite satisfied with how things look, maybe you want to change the ground texture, you can do that. You can very easily do that. And with Worn, all of a sudden, this has a very different look than the feudal one we had, of course. Same with black and white. It looks fairly flat. There's different additional stuff from the quote mod pack I'm using. There's a lot of stuff. And again, hey, you don't like the water, change the water look. Looks very different, just by very quick and simple tricks, you can do that stuff. Now, I want to show you something very, very nice. One of the reasons I have chosen to, for the near future at the very least, always stick with Wonderdraft, because we've all had that wonderful thing where you're making a map, it's an overland map, it shows some things, and you're thinking like, I'd like to do a bit more detailed look at, say, a specific country on the continent. And with just about any other tool, you just have to restart the whole process. You have to kind of like trace the outlines, does it work if you do it like that? Retrace where the mountains were, where the forests were, where the buildings were, and Wonderdraft offers you a very simple alternative. Let me save this thing under YouTube. There we go. So now I can just click on the menu and click the Create Detail Map button. And it is as amazing as it sounds. I just click it. I click Select an area. Say we want the region around Whitefellas. And we select a zoom. The zoom is limited insofar that you can't go over the 8200 by 8200 maximum limit with zoom, but right now we are very far away from that. I can even be like, hey, create it 8 times, crazy, absolutely crazy. You can include symbols, trees, mountains, paths, and labels, or leave them out. And then you hit the create button. And then the magic happens. There we go. Right now, this is 100% zoom, where before, around this maybe was 100% zoom, even a bit further out probably. We can't go further out. This is 15% zoom right now. And now, well, you can start adding. Go with more details. You know, you can also be like, hey, I want the trees. Oh, I want labels. Symbols, please. Select the trees. Give them an override scale. You know, just get them down to a sensible size level. You can do that for everything. Whoop. I did not want to merge. Misclick. Great. Now I merged them into a single symbol. I guess that happened. I can probably undo this. Things that happened. So yeah, once again, you can just select everything, override scale 1, and work from there to just fill out what's left. Sometimes I like to leave the mountains as big as they are and just redo the trees. Sometimes I like to leave the trees big as well. It's all a matter of what you want to do. But the simple fact that this detail map mode exists is goddamn amazing. Let me show you what I did with it. I had one of my biggest maps I've ever done in Wonderdraft, the biggest actually, the campaign map for Elderground. And I sat down, created all of this, a lot of work, and then we decided we're gonna play our campaign down here in the mostly uncolonized Southlands, as they're called in the game. And yeah, of course, I have a lack of details here for the simple reason I'm already nearly 200% zoom. So what I did is I loaded up the map, I defined the area, and I was like, hey, make me a detail map. And then, well, I created the details. You can see everything here is from the original map. But it's of course much, much bigger. We're not even at 100% zoom here right now. So I left all the mountains and all the trees big, and everything I added down here, I added smaller, more localized. Added a lot of the names, and that functionality by itself, honestly, to me personally, justifies the $30 cost immediately. No question asked, it's worth it. I hope I could show you what Wonderdraft is all about. It is a goddamn brilliant tool. It is nice. It is moddable. It is great. It allows you to do a really good job of very easily creating wonderful looking maps. We're going to use that map we created. Let me actually go ahead and open it up again. We're going to create that map as a JPEG file, and I'm going to use it when I show you how to set up a Foundry game. So, keep your eyes peeled. I'm going to see you hopefully soon, and that was my wonderful video about how Wonderdraft works. I hope you liked it. See you soon.